Welcome everyone to episode 9 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here once again with just Owen.
Just
Another
me.
another Doug-free
Just me.
episode this week. So we'll keep it pretty short, but we're going to be talking about the new MCU movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So share the episode, like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and we can get right into the Ant-Man and the Wasp:
Right into
Quantumania
the Ant-Man.
discussion. Yeah. I'm sure everybody listening is at least like mostly familiar with the MCU, or like at the very least a little bit familiar with the MCU. But if you're an MCU fan and you haven't seen the movie yet for some reason, don't listen because we're gonna
Shout out all
talk
the
about
MCU fans in the comments.
yeah, we're gonna talk about a lot of spoilers. But we can start with our ratings. I believe you gave this the lowest rating possible, right?
Yeah. I gave us a good old half star on the old
Yeah.
letterbox.
I gave it 1.5. I was a little more generous, although I will say I think that's like bottom 10 MCU movies for me. It might be bottom 5 even. I don't know. I give it a really
Yeah.
low rating compared to the other ones, but they're all they're not separated by much for me, like the
Oh yeah,
lowest and
mine aren't separated by that much. Most of mine
bottom.
range around this half star, 1 star area.
Yeah, and
So,
that's ridiculous. That's like too
so
low
yeah,
for me. I have some on the upper end. I think for me a good Marvel movie is the 3 to 4 star range because the highest one I have is 4 stars. But this is 1.5. So yeah, pretty low for both of us. I guess we could
as
start
expected
with
though.
yeah, I
I
guess we could
kind of,
start
I
with
mean, yeah.
things that we like, right? Because there's probably a much shorter list for things that we
I don't.
like.
I don't even know if there is like a redeeming quality for me in this movie. I
Interesting.
really don't believe in this style of filmmaking, and I feel like it's kind of a disrespectful slap in the face from this large company to put out this quality of film and know and expect it to make millions and millions of dollars and it be successful. And it feels like a rushed, incomplete product.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
I
gross.
Yeah, I'm definitely mostly there with you. I think the only thing that's really pulling it together for me, the big thing on my likes list, and of course it's because I'm biased, but it's Jonathan Majors,
Yeah.
of course. I'm a Jonathan Majors super fan. I've been on the Jonathan Majors train since day one, and now he's blowing up, and I'm very happy about that. Yeah, and I said this in my like little video review that I did, but I think the movie like made me struggle to realize if Jonathan Majors is actually good in it or if I just really like Jonathan
Yeah.
Majors because there's so many like obviously his performance is good, but it's not like they're giving him a lot to
Well,
to
no,
work.
it's he's not really there to do much. He just kind of shows up and says like random dialogue and like just kind of walks back and forth across the room. It's I
Yeah,
like Jonathan Majors a lot. It's just I don't think what he was given, there's not a like he could have the best performance with what he was given and the movie would not change. There's just
yeah,
it's so structurally broken and like that it's at the
yeah,
core of it is so flawed that Jonathan Majors could be the greatest actor ever and it's just not gonna work. um
yeah. I
so
and I
yeah,
mean,
I mean, get your bag, Jonathan. I don't
yeah, yeah, go put him.
know. I
Like
mean,
he's already he's if Marvel's paying him all this money, show up, just read the lines.
yeah.
Like he did, I don't know, he did good. Like it's like
Yeah, I
his
mean, I don't what I remember of it,
it's
it wasn't a bad
definitely
performance.
yeah. Like there's I don't know, it has its moment. Like I think there's one scene which I don't even know. I don't know if you were awake for the scene or
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
but there's one scene where they're like in I guess like we'll call it a jail because that's pretty much what it is. Just like a just and then it's like Paul Rudd's on one side and like his daughter's on the other side, like
Yeah.
and he's like talking to both of them. And I think like in that one scene and like everything he says and just kind of like how menacing he is, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like he's like actually kind of a cool villain here for a
Yeah.
second. Like it's hard to take him too seriously as a villain because of like how the movie ends, kind of for me at least.
Yeah.
Um, but that part
Well, you
was
do
like,
want him to win because the rest of the characters are so insufferable that you
yeah,
want to see everyone die, but that doesn't
yeah.
happen.
I will say I want to talk about insufferable characters because I actually have some things
You
to
have an
say about that.
insufferable character
My
list.
yeah, my only one other small like that I want to shout out before we go into just pretty much ripping apart this movie is
Yeah.
there's one tiny cameo that a lot of people probably won't even recognize because I don't think it's technically a Marvel cameo. It's a much smaller
Okay.
person than you'd expect to be in a Marvel movie, but there's a scene where Ant-Man like sees a couple and talks to them, and one of the people in the couple is Ryan Bergara, who is one of the creators of BuzzFeed Unsolved. And I'm a huge BuzzFeed Unsolved fan, and I had no idea that he was
Okay.
going to be in this movie. And I was just like watching the movie, and it turns to the couple, and I see him like smiling there, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing here? Like it was so
Interesting.
surprising to me to just like see his face. I don't know. I just thought I was watching a completely different movie for a second. I was like, why is the BuzzFeed Unsolved guy here? But that was
Yeah.
cool.
Well, it does.
Um,
I mean, this Ant-Man movie kind of does feel like a lot of different movies at times. It feels like they're just like Peyton Reed has seen like three movies, and he is just making them into this Ant-Man movie. And it also feels like with the whole MODOK in the Kang situation, it very much feels like they had an Ant-Man 3 script, and it was like
yeah,
a little like small Ant-Man movie with MODOK returning as the villain. And then they were like, oh wait, we have to move this greater story along. Let's add Kang. Let's do this. Let's do this. And it's just kind of a mess with
yeah,
that. But
yeah. No, I agree because there's like this is kind of what I was saying about how I want to talk about like specific characters. I think there's just like a number of moments that okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to act like I'm like a Marvel fan on the level of like MCU fans, but I do think at least like the first two Ant-Man movies are towards the higher end of my list because I think that Paul Rudd is like one of the people that I want to see as a superhero. Like he's like charismatic and he's like kind of the guy you want to root for kind of thing. And I do think that they're like charming in a way because of that.
yeah,
And I just think that this movie specifically, and I don't know how much of it has to do with this or how much of it is just other parts of the movie being distracting, but there's like so little emotion, and I like wanted
oh
to
yeah,
care about him and his daughter because it's like I do care about him in the first two movies, and like the fact that that just completely went away in this movie was like pretty much my biggest disappointment with the movie because there's like all the basic stuff that we could get into that everybody's upset about, but it's like I want to like actually root for one of the only superheroes in the MCU that I like kind of like, and I couldn't even do that in this movie, and that's like a real
yeah.
letdown for me.
I mean, there's no real. I wouldn't say there's a story, or like
Yeah,
there's no meat on any of the bones, like with any of the characters. They just kind
yeah,
of go to a place and then go to this place, and then they fight, and then that like there's just like no there's nothing
yeah,
there. And I feel like the Ant-Man, I will give the first Ant-Man credit. There is like there's an emotional thing going on with the family, and he's
yeah,
getting out of jail, and there's like actual meat on the bones there, at least like compared to like a lot of the other Marvel stuff. I think Ant-Man does a better job at telling a story. And I was watching Fantastic Four, I think it was Rise of
mhm,
the Silver Surfer last night. And I was just thinking about how like these superheroes have, I think like the early 2000s superheroes do such a great job of telling stories about superheroes that
yeah,
are just feel like real people. And a lot of
yeah,
the stuff is just like real. It just feels, it's not grounded in its like dark and gritty, but it's grounded in like these are still people. I
yeah,
think a lot of times Marvel gets, the new stuff gets so caught up in being so grand in like space and all these things and like this whatever quantum realm stuff, and they forget
yeah,
to write people.
yeah.
Like
No,
it's just
that's
like
such a major.
they become characters and plot points, and they just kind of go from place A to B instead of like
Yeah.
being people.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like one of those things that like because that's why I always call back to like earlier superhero movies. And I think I mentioned this when we did the M Night episode, but like that was one of those things that I liked about Glass was that it like was grounded in like a way that reminded me of like the early Spider-Man
Yeah.
movies. And yeah, like when you think of like it sucks because it's also like to me at least like such an MCU specific entity. Like it's not even a
Yeah.
Marvel thing. It's
Yeah.
like literally just within the structure of the MCU. Because like when I watch Logan, I'm like, this is one of the most human things I've ever watched. Like Logan to me is
Yeah.
like so
What it's
emotional.
fascinating how the Fox universe got trashed and basically had to sell their property, and
Yeah.
the MCU was like, Spike, this is the greatest thing ever. When the Fox movies are like way more movies than the
Yeah.
MCU stuff. Like, I don't really know what people's issue with, because I think some of the X-Men movies are really fun. And I think the biggest thing with the older Marvel stuff and the newer Marvel stuff, like the non MCU stuff, is they were director driven. They were not, and they were director driven, and they were like story based, character based, like real movies. There were real stories that were superhero ended up being superhero stories, not
Yeah.
superhero stories that were end up trying to be stories. Like
Yeah.
they were real like thematic like stories first, not
Yeah.
superhero quantum realm first. Like it was
Yeah.
the it's kind of a
Because in a
different.
lot of yeah, like in a lot of ways, like what the MCU does and continues to do, like the further we, which this is another crazy thing, but it's like the more movies they make, like
80
the
more
more
years.
yeah, like the more they make movies, the more they like go further down the line of like doing all of these things that make them feel less like they're even movies. Where it's like,
Yeah.
and I think I've seen people say this about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania specifically, and like it's not a crazy thing to say. Is like like we're getting to the point where like these movies are episode like long episodes of a TV show,
And it's
because it's
almost
like
I don't think, I think they treat it like that, and I don't think they see it as a bad thing, because all they do is now they hire TV writers. They
yeah,
just hire TV writers and be like, write this like a television show because this is episode one. And
yeah,
they're so big scale. They're so big scale that they kind of miss the point. It's
yeah,
like they're thinking so big. They're like, we're gonna have 80 years more of films. We have this 10-year plan, but then they're not focusing on, because like back in the old days, they were like, oh, we're gonna make one movie. We're gonna make a Fantastic Four movie. We're gonna make a Spider-Man movie. We're gonna make one movie. That's all that matters. If anything, nothing else happens, we're gonna make this one good movie.
yeah,
And then that movie's good. But if you're focusing on 10 years of movies and you're pumping out 4 a year or whatever, 2 TV shows,
yeah.
obviously the quality is not gonna be, because you're not focusing on something. You know,
Yeah,
you're like
and
you're focusing on all this. Like it's like
it reminds me too of like the take I made about Marvel in general. Like when I was kind of like when I made a video that was like very anti-Marvel, and
yeah,
I said that it like wasn't impressive that they built this connected universe. People were like, no, like you have to admit it is impressive that like all these stories connect over 10 years. And I'm like, now when you see something like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and it's like very clear that this movie is like exists to set up
yeah.
the next movie,
Well,
and then it feels like a TV show. It's like, bro, why
yeah.
are you guys so impressed by people creating long form television? Like, have you watched
Yeah,
television
it's
before? You
like,
know what I mean? Like, it's like
but
you're
it's
impressed that they did this, but TV shows
yeah.
have been doing this for decades. Like,
The connectivity, there's so much connectivity and there's so much pushed on connectivity that it ruins the product, because we could totally have three Ant-Man movies, and he never talks about the Avengers, or he's just doing his thing with his kids. And then he could show up in an Avengers movie, and he
yeah,
could the Avengers movie could be totally separate. I think, if in order to be successful in this kind of connected universe thing, they would really just have to make one-off movies, and then like the team up movie, then that's like a big connective type. But you don't have to have their solo movies have
yeah,
this big, because the Ant-Man solo movie is now just a a teaser trailer for the next Avenger movie. It's not an
Yeah.
Ant-Man. It's not even an Ant-Man solo movie anymore. It's
Yeah.
90% a teaser trailer for the next team up movie.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. It's really disheartening because of especially because they're so scared. They're so scared of failure and disconnectivity that everything is so structured and kind of a template. Like nothing
Yeah.
is there's no creativity going on because if you have creativity, you have unique kind of visions, then it's less connected because it doesn't feel the same, which is
Yeah.
obviously
And
not good.
the structure technically doesn't like always work. Like people are so concerned about like if they made like you're saying, like what you're saying to me like sounds like it could be an effective formula where it's like make these like worry about the individual movies and then you could worry about bringing them together in the Avengers
Yeah.
movies. And then like Marvel fans, I assume.
Yeah.
And again, like obviously like
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I don't
read the
know any
comics.
stuff.
I don't read, yeah, I don't read the comics or whatever. Like I don't know this stuff in great detail, but it's like
Yep.
if people would be concerned about, like if they did it that way, they'd be concerned about plot holes and whatever. And I'm like, it's not like these movies, the way they're structured currently, are free
The
of these
plot
things.
also,
Like
yeah,
there's yeah, like it's not like they've built some like 10 years worth of movies that people can't nitpick. You know what I mean? Like these aren't
yeah,
these like perfectly interweaving stories that people are
yeah,
like making them out to be. So I don't know. And again, it's like I don't particularly think that like most of the DC movies I've seen are like great, but at least when you
yeah,
watch something like the Batman, it's like this is its own thing. Like and
yeah.
it's good. It's a
Ooh,
great movie as its
yeah.
own thing. Like
I think DC is fascinating because I think while DC is not always hired the greatest people, I think they do a good job at letting their directors and letting their creative people do their job. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Snyder's run. I think it's really interesting. I know a lot of people don't like his stuff. A lot of like comic book people don't like his stuff because it isn't like true to the character. I think he does really interesting stuff where he is taking these kind of historic is an interesting word, but like these characters that everyone knows and they're kind of icons in their own way and telling his whatever story he wants to tell through that like kind of character, which I think is
Yeah.
interesting. It kind of treats them like a Bond or a Sherlock or like a character that's been around forever. I think his stuff is really interesting. And
Yeah.
I even though I'm not like a big fan of James Gunn, I think the fact that he is making James Gunn movies and he is
Yeah.
making like his kind of movie is more interesting than like a Peyton Reed puppet robot movie that is just Kevin Feige telling him what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even yeah, I was thinking like even when I brought up the Batman, I'm like, when you think about like what the discourse was like leading up to it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
coming out, it was like a lot of people talking about like Matt Reeves and like Matt Reeves's vision and stuff. And like you have never heard that kind of dialogue around an MCU movie coming out. Like you've never heard somebody talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and they're like, I'm so excited to see Peyton Reed's vision, or like I'm so
Yeah.
excited to see how
Well,
Peyton Reed is going to take these comic books.
I think Marvel has a great effect. Well, Marvel's so big that has this great effect on the public view of movies because it's just like the biggest thing when people think of movies. Like when people talk about, I'm in a class right now, and they were talking about they were talking about like movies and whatever, and the teacher's like older or whatever. He just calls them Marvel movie. Like he just called movies like Marvel movies. Like Marvel
Yeah,
is like the face of movies right now, and I think the fact that Marvel treats their directors so negatively just has a negative effect on how people view directors. Because I think like back in like the 80s and 90s, directors kind of were I want to say the face of cinema. Like you'd be like, oh, that's M Night. We're gonna go see the M Night movie. We're gonna see the blah 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 movie. And it's a lot of times just now just we're gonna go see the Marvel movie.
yeah.
And
It's like disheartening for the
it's a
studio.
it's
Yeah,
a faceless kind of movie. It's just Marvel Studios presents. It's
yeah,
never gonna be Peyton Reed's Ant-Man, or it's
yeah.
it is
It's funny.
so it's like what are those called? It's like the line with the boxes.
Um, that's very vague description.
I don't know, whatever.
Like a graph.
No, no, no. When it's like it's like everything's like this. It's like when you make you have a product and it's on the
Okay.
line, and then it's like the same product.
Like
You know what I'm talking about?
not a production belt, but like there's a different word for it.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
something belt
Assembly
or
assembly
assembly
line.
line. Yeah,
Yeah,
that works
assembly
too.
line movies. They're all just packaged and shipped out by like a
Yeah,
robot. Yeah, and it's just I don't know. It's anti-art to me, and I'm not a fan. And I know a lot of
yeah,
people online are big fans of them. But I've recently, because it's been a lot of talk about Ant-Man, I've been kind of making videos about. I have a video that I have will be out by the time this podcast is out. But I kind of like these are superhero movies I actually do like, because it's kind of been
yeah,
like superhero movies suck. But it's actually like
yeah,
no, there's superhero movies that came out before Marvel and after Marvel that are actually, or like during Marvel, that are actually
yeah,
pretty good because they're real, like director, creative, artist driven movies, and I think they're
yeah.
fun and they're cool, and people should check them out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's I think it's funny that you mention like how people think that Marvel movies are like all movies, because we're gonna get into this after we're done talking about this movie. We're gonna react to some tweets, but like one of the tweets that I or one of the takes that I found online is just like
Yeah,
the epitome of people associating Marvel movies with all movies. But we'll get to that. Some
yeah,
other things that I disliked. And this is definitely going along with the fact that it's such a big studio movie, is like and I know we talked about this a little bit, but it's just so commercialized. Like it's so disgusting to see. Like I don't mind, because it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other
oh, like the
examples where,
Baskin Robbins stuff.
yeah, like,
I
I
mean,
don't
like
mind
the
product placement in movies if it's
no,
like,
it's bad.
like if it doesn't like completely distract you, or even if it's kind of funny. Like even like I'm not saying they're good movies, but even the product placement and like the Jurassic World movies that came out recently, I was like, this is kind of silly. Like when they just like put something in it, like
Yeah,
they put like a fucking Jeep Wrangler in the
yeah, yeah,
movie or
yeah.
whatever.
Well, that's the
Okay,
thing. It's
whatever.
like I think with product placement, it's a thing where it's like if the rest of the movie is good, who
Yeah,
cares? You know?
yeah,
But if everything sucks and then Baskin Robbins is in your face, it's
yeah.
going to be annoying. It's
And
like
but it's
every
just
scene
like,
is like, oh, this is the worst. And then they throw like an ad in your face, basically. It's like
yeah,
really
that's
like
it's a lack of it's a lack of subtlety,
it's
because
so
it's
bad.
like, yeah, because it's not even like they're just putting someone in a Baskin Robbins uniform in the movie. Like there's
Yeah,
no subtlety, because there's a
yeah.
3-minute scene where you're like, it's pretty much talking to the audience about how
Yeah.
you should buy Baskin Robbins. Like it's like,
It's but it's
there's
they
it's so
know they can get
distracting.
away with it. Like it's they know no one online, no one of those Marvel creators is gonna be like, really Baskin Robbins or have a 3 minute. Like no one's gonna
Yeah,
go on there and say that, and they know they can get away with it. So they're like bucket money, like, and they just do it. Like it's just like
yeah,
it's at that point where all these. I'm happy with some of the bigger creators because of the pushback on Ant-Man, because it's a lot of like online recently. I obviously some people have been like really pro Ant-Man, whatever, but there has been some big creators who have been like, this shit is ass. Like this movie is not
yeah,
good, and I think that is really good, and I think people will be pro kind of Guardians, but I think we are kind of entering a shift of Marvel decline in the way of like the even when Soups is like, hey guys, it's like you gotta treat it like you gotta watch it like this to be, like one of these big
yeah.
creators are prefacing how to watch the movie to enjoy it because it is not good. There is some kind of decline there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And it this also, like this little product placement spiel kind of ties into like one specific line in the movie that I have like a ton of beef with. I think
okay.
I think there's I think I've seen this done in a number of movies, that some people like to spin it as a positive, and for
Okay.
me, I'm like, this is a major negative. And there's a line in the movie where what's his character's name? Michael Douglas's character, Hank
Yeah,
Pym has
Hank. Shout out
a line.
Hank.
Yeah, he has like a line where he's talking about the ants, and he's like, "Hey guys, we should like consider this socialism thing." And that joke bothers me so much, because so many people are gonna like, and a lot of people who and again, I don't want to like, whatever people want to think about it or take away from it, but like so many people are gonna see that and be like, oh, like this is progressive, like the Ant-Man movie being like pro-socialism, and it's like,
Uh,
no, like this is
what?
not,
Yeah,
because it's
it's
laughing
so
at the
bad.
idea. Have this is a gigantic movie full of product placement, full of like complete greed, like a studio film only aimed at making money. And they have like a little fun joke in there about how like socialism's actually good, guys. And it's like, no, like people, like they're laughing at it, like they're poking fun at it. And it's like,
Yeah.
that really does not sit well with me. Like that line alone, like takes half a star off my rating, because I hate when I
The
see stuff
Yeah,
in
yeah.
movies.
The entire storyline with Cassie, where she's like this like
Like
fighter,
prison
like
abolitionist,
yeah,
or no,
she's
she's like,
like
yeah, like
she's
homeless.
like yeah,
Yeah,
like that would have been cool for that to be like the opening scene of her like fighting, like helping people. I've
yeah,
never shown.
it's
Uh,
like a character motivation that like would
but
make
it's
you
like
care about the character,
if
but
it
it's in
was
such
like
an
written
unserious
like
movie.
it's that's the thing is that it feels so out of place. It feels
Yeah,
so out of place because it's like it almost feels like something Marvel would have done 20 years ago, but they would have shown it and it would have been serious and it would have been taken seriously. And that character could have been actually really interesting if she was like
yeah,
a serious character. But the rest of the movie, she's making dick jokes, and that is completely forgotten about.
yeah.
Um,
It's just like, I mean,
so
obviously, it's not
it
surprising
is
to see it
like
from studios, but
it
it's like
feels like it
fake
feels like three
progressiveness.
different movies. It feels like three different movies. Like someone wrote this progressive, like Cassie is like actually an interesting character, and then they had this other script, and then they just like use half of both. Like they use parts of both, so it feels like there's like another movie kind of creeping in. But it's
Yeah,
so like it's such this big juxtaposition that it just feels wrong. Like this part just
yeah.
feels wrong.
And not just that, but it's juxtaposed with like, and I think someone we know made this take. I saw this in someone's review, but like, but it's like juxtaposed with the fact that like her, like the level of maturity that she has does not like line up properly, because it's like for her to care about these
Yeah.
things, but
Yeah.
then for her to have bits of dialogue that make her feel like she's still a 9-year-old child, it's like, you
Well,
know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's
It's like,
so weird. It's so bizarre because they've recasted this character like three times, and
yeah,
then she's old. She's like in her 20s now, but she's acting like she's the kid is still like she's acting like she's a kid still. So why not just keep the kid if you're going to make them act like a kid? Like why recast them three times, bring on an older actress, a higher named actress, and then just have her act like the kid still?
yeah.
Which is weird
It's just
because
like, it's just very
she's been
unfitting.
here the whole like yeah, it was weird. Then it is
Yeah.
true. That is because she all her dialogue is like dad running around dick
Yeah.
jokes. It's like, and then she has
Like
like
she
a
could,
she's then all of a sudden she's like a freedom fighter out there. Like it's like it's like these are
yeah,
this is like
she's like,
this is like two
all
different
of a sudden
people.
she's leading a revolution.
Yes, like what?
Just,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
it's just,
bad.
it's so
Oh, it's
unfitting, and
bad.
it's just like, it's just kind of like that. It's definitely an example of how bad the characterization is in the movie in general. And also, like when you mentioned the dick jokes, it's like that was one of the ones specifically that took me out of the movie a lot. But there's like a number of them where it's like, and again, not I'm by no means like applauding Marvel humor in general, but at least in the past,
That was fun.
I might, no, this might
That one
just
got you.
be, this might just be fatigue, but like at least in the past when I used to go see Marvel movies, there was a
You were
couple jokes
cracking
that
up.
would like get a giggle out of me, you know? Like I'm like, oh,
He was
that was
slapping
silly.
his knee in the theater.
Okay,
Uh,
nah, not that much, but like, but you know, like
yeah.
it's like sometimes I'd see a joke and I'm like, oh, that's not a bad joke, but like this movie, I had
You
a
probably
straight
did.
face
I
the
feel like
entire
honestly, a lot of it I do think is interesting because like a lot of people around our age kind of grew up with these movies,
time.
and
Yeah,
it's all like it's one of those things where it's like the more you watch and the more educated you get on film, and then just kind of the more like you just grow up in general, you just start seeing things differently. So there definitely is an obvious decline, but it doesn't help that the fan base that grew up with these movies are growing up at the same time that these movies are declining. So there's
yeah,
like obviously the kids that are kind of growing up now with these like this era of Marvel, they're probably gonna love this movie. But I think a lot of people that grew up with the Iron Man and like the Avengers 1 era of Marvel are probably not gonna be as big of fans of this because they're kind of like over the shtick almost. A lot of people are probably gonna be over that in that kind of age demographic, I think.
Yeah, that's true. And also the one thing I wanted to mention as well that I think I'm kind of like growing out of, but this has been kind of a trend for almost all the Marvel movies, to be honest, but especially now that we keep getting hit with like the multiverse or like here's another big universe, you know, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
these real grand things. It's like there's nothing exciting or creative about the action or like the spectacle on
Yeah.
screen, and it makes you like so upset because it's not like the, and obviously it plays into the fact that like there's not really much creativity going into these movies in general, but it's like
Yeah.
when you have a budget this major and you think of other successful major blockbusters and how they pull off spectacle, it makes you sad to know that the biggest of those is just lacking spectacle
Yeah.
entirely. Because I think of like, you know what I mean, it's like I think of like John Wick or like the new Mission Impossible movies or whatever, and it's like they have like they're by no means on the scale of an MCU movie, but
Yep.
the actual like specific like scene by scene action is so
Mhm.
interesting that you don't need it to be as big of a scale because there's actually creativity involved. Like the way
Yeah.
John Wick kills people, you're like, oh, this is fun. Like there's like something for me to enjoy. I'm like, when I'm watching these action scenes in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I literally, I'll be so honest, I don't even remember any of them. Like it's been 3 days
Yeah.
since I watched the movie. Like I don't
The
remember what
movie is a
happened.
complete blur. Uh,
Yeah. Like,
it's an issue is because like at its core, these are like sci-fi action movies, whatever. Um, the issue is that like because there was a I forget the director's name, but she was like up for directing the Black Widow movie,
mhm.
and she was like, I have never done action sequences before. I don't think I can do this. And Marvel was like, hey, no, we actually like
Oh
we got
yeah.
people to shoot the like we do the action scenes. You do everything else. And it's this point of like every Marvel like movie, the action is the same. So it is almost like what are we on like movie 27 or something of the same
31.
action. 31 movie 31 of the same action sequences, basically. And it's like,
Yeah.
so the action, not like the action is just like, we might as well skip forward this part because we've seen it
Yeah.
30 other times. Like it is,
Yeah.
there is just zero creativity in the action. So cut out the action. And then people say, oh, well, Marvel, you should, there's a lot of people like, because people are criticizing the dialogue of Ant-Man and Wasp. I'm like glowing. The sun is like, people criticizing the dialogue on Ant-Man. But then we're like, the people are coming out, like creators are coming out and be like, guys, we Marvel is not about dialogue. Don't go into Marvel being like dialogue. Dialogue is not the point of Marvel. So okay, take on the dialogue, take on the action that we have now. All right, like what are
Yeah.
we? Okay, so the visuals look like shit because they don't pay
Not
their
good.
CGI people and they don't know how to light the fucking image. There's no lighting. There's no lighting.
Yeah.
There's the CGI people
It's
are
so
underpaid,
dark. It's
and
so dark.
the CGI people are underworked, overpaid, not overpaid, underpaid, overworked,
Yeah, there you
and they
go.
rushed, and it's lit terribly, and there's like no interesting creative composition because these are like random directors they found off Craigslist. So like there's
Yeah.
just not it works on no level. There's just no level that it works successfully on besides putting on people's favorite characters and making like the same jokes over and over again. I think someone mentions this online and it was like these joke jeez these jokes worked when like Tony Stark had his style of jokes, Thor had his style of
Yeah.
jokes, and Bruce Banner had hit like everyone had their own personalities and
Yeah,
joked
exactly.
differently, and everyone was in the
And now it's a
same
Marvel
room.
joke. Now
But
it's a
it's
Marvel
every
joke.
now everyone is trying to be Iron Man or something. Like everyone is trying to be Deadpool. Like everyone is trying to be the same. Everyone is telling the same jokes. It's become the
Yeah.
point where Ant Man and like if Iron Man and Ant Man were still on, like here, it would be like they were just saying that like the same dialogue could be said by both characters. there's just like it is the writing is just so like this is how we're just gonna write everyone. Everyone is written the same. Like there's no
Yeah.
characters. It's just it's
And
so like I don't even know.
I hate the conversation as well around expectations. Like you mentioned, like, oh, you're not supposed to, like, the dialogue's not supposed to be good, and it's like
Yeah.
like all these things, like, or like what to expect. Even when I talk about the spectacle thing, you know what I mean? Where it's like I'm talking about spectacle, and then people's reply is going to be like, oh, well, not every movie's going to be Endgame, and it's like that's not what I'm asking for.
It's
Because
a,
like when you think of my favorite action movies, like my favorite action movies, first of all, a number of them were made 20 years ago when the spectacle doesn't even
yeah.
compare at all to what's happening in Marvel movies. It's like that's not, I don't need everything to be some gigantic like battle because they're boring. They all like
Yeah.
come
Well,
together
it's
in a way
like
that's not
those gigantic battles look like dog shit, and I think it's hilarious that people are
yeah.
like, not everything's gonna be Endgame and or Infinity War because those two movies fucking suck.
Yeah,
And
I mean
this
I actually like Endgame, but that's a different
okay, sure.
conversation.
But I think it's funny. I think it's funny that people are like, they're like, not everything is gonna be this movie. They're not. They're put Endgame in this point. We're like, not everything's gonna be Endgame. But it's like, I don't want Endgame. I want fucking Spider-Man 2 or like I like
Yeah,
I don't know, like a real fucking like it's like I think
yeah,
it's funny that people it's everyone's comment is like it's either it's like not everything's gonna be Endgame. Like why are people's expectations so high? And I think it's funny because it's like who said Endgame was the goal? Like I don't know why people think that's like the goal for every movie, but I think it's also like a thing where it's like they kind of shoot themselves in the foot where they're hyping Ant-Man 3 as like this big event. Like it's like Ant-Man 3, everyone's got to see Ant-Man 3. It's the big like Kang's here. It's like this big event. And then it's like people are like, "Oh, you expected Endgame." It's like they hyped it up like Endgame. It should
yeah,
have at least been like Endgame. Like it's
yeah,
like
and it's just
you can't market a movie like another movie and people will be like you can't expect it to be like that movie. It's like
yeah,
yeah,
no, because
I
they,
don't know.
and it's just like it's so weird to like to move the bar and like try to define like what these movies are because I was gonna make a video on like this specifically because I just keep seeing I have to keep like defending this topic and making the same exact point over and over again, but it's like people are gonna be like, oh no, well, like you're watching Marvel movies, like don't expect the dialogue to be this good, but it's like these same people who are enjoying Marvel movies despite what they think is like bad dialogue are
Yeah.
going to turn around and say X, Y, and Z is a bad movie because of bad dialogue when it fits what the movie's supposed to be. And again, I always bring this up because like I'm a rom-com defender, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like they do it with
Yeah, yeah,
rom-coms, they do it with movies that are campy, and like at least those are playing into it. Like at least like with Twilight, it's like
yeah.
this is camp, like this is like fun, silly
Oh
dialogue, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're not that like Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is not like that's not the point. And it's like you could say that the dialogue isn't meant to be taken seriously or whatever, but like, but you know what I mean? It's like what is
Yeah.
exactly? Because like
What the thing
where
is, so I think I talked about this. I made a video about how Marvel has forgotten how fantasy works like on a fundamental level, on like a writing standpoint. Because when you're talking about like dialogue, like weird dialogue, or like it's not even weird dialogue. It's just like honestly, it's just bad dialogue with Marvel.
yeah,
It's like people try
yeah,
to like
you
defend
can
it,
say
whatever. It's just bad. But I think it's like a lot of the issues with Marvel's dialogue. We didn't even talk about like MODOK as a character, but I basically used MODOK as my kind of character to kind of talk about the whole arching like problem.
yeah,
Because Marvel is inherently weird. Like it's a comic book franchise. You're going to have weird characters. Like yeah, the main character is Ant-Man. Like it's like the okay. So
yeah,
you just can't you have to treat your characters in this crazy world with like some level of like grounded way of talking because they're in this world where like they've seen Thanos, they've seen dudes fly, they've seen dudes punch everything, and they still react to everything like they've never seen anything before. It is like
yeah,
everything has to be pointed out, like it has to be pointed out and told to the audience that this is weird. It has to be told to the audience how to feel like
yeah,
you see MODOK and you laugh at him to tell the audience to laugh at him because it's like everything has to be pointed out and be like this is funny guys, this is weird, but it's like so it undermines the stakes of the film because if you have to stop and point out and tell the audience that this is weird and this is like this guy, look at his weird face, then you're undermining that character, because we as the audience we're smart enough to be like, hey, that's funny, he has a big head, but the characters themselves have to be in this some level of groundedness where they're like actually talking about other things. Because there's a scene,
Yeah.
because we're obviously talking about spoilers, where MODOK is dying and they're just
Mhm.
laughing at him the whole time. And I think, but
Yeah.
it's like even if whatever you don't like that scene, you know that, but they're laughing at MODOK the whole time. There's never a scene where MODOK is not laughed at, and it's like, what is this character for? Like,
Yeah.
why? Like, really?
Because he is like a comic relief character, but like just because you're a comic relief character doesn't mean we like don't want
Yeah.
you to still be like a
Was
literal character.
it's like, what's the thing is, someone commented on my video because I'm talking about MODOK, and I would say we're saying said something like MODOK's always been funny, like MODOK's always been weird, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
MODOK is a floating head. Of course, he's always been funny, but there's nothing else to his character. Like, what? There's not. It's a one-dimensional character, and the only dimension is point and laugh at him, and that
Yeah.
is just like, really. Like that's
Yeah.
but that's a lot of like that's literally all the characters in Marvel are like basically just point and laugh at them, or point.
Yeah.
This character's job is to point and laugh at this guy. Like, it's like every character is just a guy pointing and laughing at some other guy.
Yeah, and it goes into like how they cut like the because I mentioned this in my review as well. Like because I'm thinking of the MODOK thing, and it's like obviously the way that they point and laugh at him completely
Yep.
like takes any emotion out of the scene, or like makes you like feel
Yep.
any type of bad for him. And it's like the same thing that I mentioned where I was like their humor as well is so effective at like ruining any of the tension that the
Any
movies
tension.
have.
Yeah.
Like there's any time there's like a scene that is at least like makes you nervous, like makes you a little sweaty and like on edge. They're just like, oh, what if we just have a character walk across the screen and tell a joke really quick to so that you're
Yeah.
not nervous about
Well,
what's going on anymore.
it's so bad. I'm
That's
a
frustrating.
huge fan of sci-fi and fantasy, and I think one of my favorite things about fantasy and stuff like that is you have these characters that are so otherworldly and so like weird, but you're
Mhm.
watching the movie and you forget about that kind of stuff. You
Yeah,
forget about how weird this dude on the screen is because you believe him. You
yeah,
believe him and you want him to succeed in what he wants to succeed in. I mentioned Star Wars in my video, and I was talking about there's weird ass characters in Star Wars. Like, but you care, like, if you like you kind of fall in love with them and you care about their story. But it's a
yeah,
difference with Marvel is there's no sense of belief. There's no
yeah.
sense of like these characters are like say Chewbacca, for example. Like,
Yeah.
Chewbacca is like a big
Marco doesn't
like
even talk.
he's
You
a
know?
big like hairy like thing, and they joke with him, but it's not to the point of like you like Chewbacca, you want
Yeah,
Chewbacca to like go out, and it's like if they just kick Chewbacca and like put him on a leash and like call him doggy the whole time, and like it's just like there has to be some level of like faith in your characters and more of like respect. Like, there has to be some level of respect between
yeah,
characters for the audience to respect them. Because if the
yeah,
characters on screen are not respecting them, then the audience isn't respect them. And then you're detached from the story, and there's no emotional connection to these characters. And I
yeah.
think that's kind of the fundamental issue with how Marvel writes like their fantasy, sci-fi kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we could get into a whole list of issues about how
Yeah,
they write.
there's so many issues, but I think that is, for me, that's kind of my biggest issue recently, is the way they do comedy and the way they treat their characters. They treat their characters like shit, and they expect people to care about them.
Yeah, absolutely. My list is exhausted now. I think that covers everything. I mean, and we did kind of talk about how it
Yeah,
looks, I guess. That
yeah.
was
I
also
mean, I
on the
guess
list.
I like, I don't know. I'll probably see the next one just to talk, because I think it's interesting. I think it should be talked about. I think it should be brought up that these are not
Yeah,
like, this is not acceptable, like, quality at all, because like this is
d-
Disney. Like, this is like
yeah,
the biggest brand around. This shit should not be like allowed.
yeah.
Like,
Do
there should
you
be
think?
riots in Disneyland right now. Like,
Do you think like okay because you already mentioned like what you think would be like a better vision for how they make the movies.
yeah.
Do you think that there's like what do you see
The
the
future of
future
Marvel.
being as like, for example, like, do you think that Disney and Marvel or whatever responds to the negativity this movie receives at all, or do you think
So
that they just keep it rolling with Guardians of the Galaxy
they
3?
they did push back the Marvels movie
Yeah,
like right as Ant-Man, like right as Ant-Man
yeah,
dropped, people were like, "This is ass." They pushed that shit back. So I
yeah,
think they are like going to be like, "Okay, we'll take more time on the special effects," but I don't know if they're going to fundamentally change how they operate. Like I don't see that happening. So I really don't like. I think maybe some people will be like, "Oh, Marvel's good again," when it's really like stale, the same like shit. That's the problem. Like this, it's such a fundamental issue with the way
yeah,
that they operate that I don't see it like being fixed. Like I don't see a
yeah,
Marvel movie that I will enjoy like happening from this current like regime. I hope, even if I obviously I would hope that they come out and be like they make movies that I think are good. But
yeah,
the second like hope, like if they can't make movies that I enjoy, I hope that they continue to make movies that other people enjoy, just on a smaller scale. Like I hope
yeah,
they make, if they, even though they keep doing the same formula, if the budgets are a little smaller and they're not the number one movie every weekend, then that's fine. Like if they want to still do this formula, just not make $1 billion every time, and
yeah.
and be
It's just
like kind
kind of
of,
inevitable,
yeah,
though,
it's
huh?
just it's just
Like,
I just feel like there will continue to kind of be this big conglomerate franchise until they kind of fizzle out.
yeah, and it's
And
like
who
hard to
knows
see
what's
an
gonna
end to
happen.
that.
I'm like this is fascinating because I think Ant-Man is a big topic right now. It's like everyone's like, this is the worst Marvel movie, and like, is Marvel dying? I think that's good. I think that is good that
Yeah,
is happening because it can either go in two directions, or like there's like, or maybe three, but like there's like a couple directions you can go in. This is like a point.
yeah,
This is a it's important point for Marvel
yeah,
because people are reacting very negatively to this. They said Black Panther, I didn't see it, the Wakanda Forever, but people were like, oh, this is pretty good. But they really hit Thor. Like a lot, like
yeah,
the recent ones have been very like hit or miss,
yeah.
which I think that is interesting to see where they kind of pivot for that.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter either, like, if it actually is the worst Marvel movie or not. It's really just about like the dialogue that it generates. And I do want to mention specifically because
Yeah,
of the critical, we could get into some of these because
yeah,
we're gonna react to, at least I have a couple like
yeah. Spit them out.
tweets and reviews and stuff like pulled up
Yeah.
that we could react to and give our opinion on. And one of them actually mentions that. But I did want to start with the thing that I was mentioning before about how people consume like how people view Marvel movies as like the only movies almost, because
Yeah,
I saw a TikTok and someone, and by the way, we're not gonna like we're not gonna
yeah.
mention like who made any of the, like, this
Of
is like
course.
completely anonymous, and
Yeah,
we don't, whatever.
yeah.
It's,
But I will
if
on
you're the
my
person,
TikTok. Go
yeah.
to see my TikTok, and I'll yell at people.
No, but like, but there was one where it was like me telling people the rules to watching a Marvel movie,
Oh,
and
okay.
like
Fascinating.
in theaters, right?
Okay.
And listen to some of these rules and tell
Yeah.
me that, like,
I'm all ears. Let me hear
okay,
these rules.
so the first one is no bathroom breaks, right? Which,
No bathroom
to,
breaks.
to be fair, if you're a person who enjoys movies, you're not leaving the theater to go to the
Yeah,
bathroom.
you gotta hold it in.
Like,
You gotta
exactly,
hold it.
right?
Yeah.
So far, one for one
I mean,
on
unless you're
inside.
going to see Avatar, because you will be going seeing it again. So it's
Yeah, no, but like
yeah. That's a normal,
when you
like,
think about it,
they,
normal movie
yeah, hold it
theater
in, hold it in,
etiquette,
hold it in.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
now number two, no talking. Hmm.
Yep.
I
Okay.
wonder what else no
Normal
talking
theater rank.
applies to.
Yeah. Okay.
Number three,
So far,
no.
those are two that I do. So I'm
Yeah,
doing good.
number
I can go
three,
to the next
no cell
Marvel premiere.
phones.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I'm
like,
crushing it. I don't know about you. I'm crushing it.
you think of this list, like when you look at this
All right.
list,
Yeah.
the, literally
Is
just
that it?
no, there's more, but it's like what you
Okay.
looking
Keep
at that
going. I want to
habit.
hear him.
These rules are just the rules at a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Can we hear the
Like,
rest of them?
yeah, some of these are kind of more Marvel oriented. Like number four is if there's a cheer worthy moment, you better cheer, which is ridiculous, by the way.
The "You
Um,
Better Cheer" is hilarious. Oh,
yeah.
I love this. You gotta send me this video after this.
No, but it's like
This is great.
that that
People
one's
make
that
the
one's
best content on that app. I love
that
TikTok.
one's it's silly too
You
because it
better
does
cheer. The cheer, yeah. Did Marvel invent the cheer moment? I guess maybe not invent it, but
no,
like they
not really.
capitalize. Like that cheer moment is kind of the Marvel moment now
Well,
because
yeah,
those people go crazy.
that's the thing that I brought up. It's like they play into it more where like they like ask you to cheer, but this isn't like some new
Marvel
thing. You know what I
Marvel
mean?
edits their movie. No, no, but yeah, Marvel. I think I would say that Marvel is the first like studio, or I guess the first movies to edit their movies. Unless I'm like unfamiliar with something else, please let me know. But Marvel, like there was the moment in Spider-Man No Way Home. Spoilers for
Yeah.
that movie. Where where like the Andrew comes out of the portal, and
Mhm.
there's like this pause.
Yeah, for people to cheer. Yeah.
It's like, and if you watch it like at home, it's like really awkward because it's
Even
like he literally pops out and he like pauses so people
yeah.
can cheer. And it's like, what other, I don't know, probably like there's other movies where like it's like he like makes a landing and it's like slow. But that movie is just so obviously in like the editing decision is so obviously there because they know
Yeah.
people are gonna like cheer.
They even
It's
do it
insane.
they even do it after, like, later on in the movie when all 3 of the Spider-Men are together and they, like, do that
Yeah.
little swing they do the swinging thing before they fight, and then they
Yeah.
land, and they all, like, are just stood there after they land for, like, 5 seconds. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. It's like so funny
um,
because the only like editing decision that Marvel has ever made in the past 20 years to like actually like it's the only like critical editing decision is so stupid and only there so they can like pause for laughs is hilarious.
yeah. Yeah, it's just like and I brought this up when I made that same Marvel video I was referring to earlier, was like
Yeah.
people act like this is, something incredibly unique for
Yeah.
Marvel to be doing. And I'm like, yeah, of course, like the pausing for laughter or like pausing for cheers or whatever is like obnoxious, but it's like, but people act like big blockbuster movies that people line up for, that like people are super engaged with, like didn't exist before Marvel. You know what I mean?
Oh
And I
yeah,
brought
yeah.
this I brought this up in my video, and I was like, do people, I mean, obviously probably people who are like young in Marvel's audiences don't remember this because they were like barely born, but like, not, I shouldn't say barely born, but but
Marvel's
when like,
audience was
yeah,
not
when
born. Let's be
no, but
clear.
like, I don't know if people remember, but like going to theaters to see the last Harry Potter movie,
Oh yeah.
like, you realize
That
how
was an event.
loud, excitable that crowd was watching like that final battle in the Harry
They
Potter. Like, this is
oh yeah.
some unique thing that Marvel created for people to get excited while watching a movie, like for a packed
That's
theater
what
to get
that's the biggest that's the
excited.
sad thing for me is I think Marvel kind of owns the it's like a neighborhood almost, the movie
Yeah,
neighborhood. And Marvel owns like the whole block of like the big like 99% of this block of like the big budget fantasy sci-fi movies
yeah,
because we got like the Matrix, like the Lord of the Rings, like Harry Potter, like all of these like big franchises, and then Marvel kind of just ate it all up to the
yeah,
point of like we're only getting Marvel, and it is the same director kind of style, and it is the same studio, and it's the same fucking actors every 2 years, and it's like we're instead of getting more. I didn't hate to bring up Harry Potter at a time like this, but
yeah,
but you instead of getting more Harry Potters and Matrixes and Lord of the Rings, we're getting just a billion Marvel movies. And I know
yeah,
we're getting Avatar, which I'm so glad that Avatar is coming out now because I think Avatar coming out and then Ant-Man coming out a couple months later is like this shit looks like ass. Like it's
yeah,
like, but yeah, I know you want more Avatars, you want more Lord of the Rings, you want more Matrixes, and you want less Ant-Man Quantumanias.
yeah, absolutely. And then the last take, once again, just a completely
Yeah, just
normal
a
movie
movie.
thing. Stay until the very end of the credits, which for Marvel's sake is
Yeah, yeah.
just, that pretty much just means watch the whole movie. You
Yeah,
know what I
and
mean?
I
Like,
hate I don't know how you feel about I think that stupid end credit shit is the most annoying thing ever. And I was watching Split like a week or two ago, and they do like an end credit scene kind of thing. But M.
Yeah.
Night says, "I'm not gonna fuck around." It's just at the end of the movie. Like it's just like
Yeah.
we have this little end scene, and it's like this. You see Split, like the Split logo comes up, and then it happens, and then you get the credits, and it's
Yeah.
like it's like yeah, if you want to do a little teaser thing at the end, sure, but fucking just
Yeah.
put it at the end of the movie.
You
Like
gotta like
why are we
sit there and
waiting
wait for it.
wait 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like it's either at the movie or it's like it's basically it's like a teaser at the end of the movie. Like it's not even a part of the movie. It's like because the glass like the Split whatever scene at the end, that's a part of the movie. That's like a part of the runtime. This
Yeah.
is just like an added little Chuck E. Cheese moment.
Yeah.
And I just think it's I don't know, it's again, it just feels like devaluing the art as whatever.
Yeah. The next one I had, which to be fair, we could kind of skip this one because we already talked about it, but it's kind of just about how like someone saying that like people are complaining that every MCU project is not like endgame level good and you need to lower your bar, which is like again, like
Yeah.
the fact that you need to set a prerequisite for a movie and be like, oh, like let's just lower the bar for this one, just lower your expectations. It's like it's just
Yeah.
such a wild way to have to view
What
movies,
yeah, I know.
particularly
Again,
of this
we talked about
scale.
this a little, but I think it's funny because I think Marvel kind of themselves as like a company or like whatever Disney, they feel like they have this sense of urgency where it's like we did Endgame and Endgame was so big and Endgame was everyone loved Endgame and
Yeah.
now they even though they know that they have to start fresh like they have to start small again, they have this feeling of they're impatient. The fans are impatient. So they have this weird like feeling of needing to hype up their movies like it's the next Endgame, which is ultimately like I don't know. I feel like Marvel at this point is shooting themselves in the foot a lot because I think
Yeah.
they're putting out 7 movies, 2 TV shows a year, and they're hyping every movie up like it's the next big thing, which is inherently making people less interested and having a bad experience with the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this this is
Yeah,
kind of I kind of wanted to mention this before because we already kind of like glossed over it a little bit, but it's like the someone was like talking about the Ant-Man and the Wasp like Quantumania Rotten Tomatoes score being so low, and they were like, oh, because you know you can't trust fucking Rotten Tomatoes, and it's
yeah,
like this is what I was saying before, where it's like I said this to you before we were recording, I think, right? Where it's like
yeah,
there's no like overlap between these two. Not that there's no overlap. Like obviously people can enjoy movies critically and still like the MCU or whatever, but it's like why are you as like this diehard Marvel movie fan who doesn't care what critics have to say, why do you constantly go back to being like, oh, well, like Rotten Tomatoes is meaningless because this one has a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes? It's like, why do
uh,
you care? Like, why are you concerned about? Because
I
it's
don't
like they don't.
know. Yeah,
There's no like alignment between how somebody who like if you just want to watch the movie for fun and you don't care about watching movies critically, like what do you expect
yeah,
Rotten Tomatoes to be? You know what I mean? It's a conglomerate of critics reviews. Like
yeah.
you're
Well,
at that
no, it's. I
that's
think
the
it's funny.
bias.
I've said this before, and I kind of will stay on this forever. I think, but I think it's funny. I think, you either can go into the movie with like I don't want to say critic cap, but you can either go into the movie and like think about it like with like some actual brain, like you can think about it with deeper, and then I think you can talk about it deeper and think like take other people's deeper opinions into it. But if you're just going into it for entertainment and nothing else, and you just want to have fun, then why do you care about what other people are saying, or why do you want to? And then you can't go online and be like try to talk critically about it because you didn't interact with the movie critically. So
Yeah.
it's everybody. I think it happens a lot with the Marvel kind of space because if I'm going to a movie and I'm gonna go to the movie critically, I'm gonna go talk about it critically, but then you're gonna go to the movie just for fun and kicks and giggles, and
Yeah.
not like with your friend or whatever. Why do you care? Or why do you come on and drop comments? Like why? Like I don't know. It's just like it's so
Yeah.
weird because I feel like if you're not gonna care about the actual issues at hand while watching it, why do you care when you leave the theater? Like, why
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like a big
And
thing?
and another thing that I want to mention that goes along with this is like it's really frustrating that people kind of create this narrative that someone who watches movies critically or with a critical lens, like whatever that means they
Yeah,
can't like,
we need like
which
a
means
new
they
word.
can't enjoy movies or like have fun watch. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like just like you could watch the movie and be like, I think this is a bad movie. It doesn't mean that like we don't like go watch movies
Yeah.
that are like silly or like you know what I mean? Like
Well, that's
fun,
the
like
thing. It's
campy
like
movies, and we're like, these
there's
are fun.
always
Like,
there were so there's the dumb like there's those dumb like stupid videos where it's like, oh, I'm sorry I enjoyed Thor: Love and Thunder. I didn't want to watch a 4 hour movie of a
like black
pigeon
and
shitting.
white,
But
yeah.
it's like what movies do you think we are watching? Like
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
they're like it's like what are these movies? It's like
They always
and it's
describe
also
a
like
movie that's never been made. Like they always describe a movie
but
that
it's
has
like
never
I
existed.
it always feels like it's either 0 or 100. There's no people think there's nothing in between. It
Yeah.
is like and it's also like it's like I don't know. It's just like because
Like people,
I was watching I was watching a Fritz Lang movie
mhm.
yesterday, and I was and I thought I really enjoyed it, but it was like, yeah, that's not the most entertaining movie I've ever seen. Like, it's not the most entertaining 2 hours I've ever seen, but I really liked it because I find there's other things that I can find that are like important to me than just entertainment. And I feel
Yeah.
like people are like, as long as it entertained me, it was good. And I was like, if that's all that matters to you, that is fine. But don't tell me that that is all that matters for everyone because
Yeah.
that's just like it's just like that's just entertainment for you. That's fine. I
Yeah.
just like art and like that's like I don't know. I just feel like it's
Because it's
really
like,
weird.
because it also just like, yeah, like you compare it to like other art forms, you know what I mean? And it's like people aren't gonna like these same people, right? They're not gonna go to an art gallery and look at paintings and be like, I'm just here to look at these paintings for entertainment. You know what I mean? It's like no, people do
Yeah,
that because they like want to engage with the paintings
yeah.
and they care about the art and whatever. And it's like
There
movies
is no,
are
yeah.
art. Like
It's
it
tough.
exists for the same reason. It's like
I think the film community and the movie space is really hard to kind of talk into and talk about because I think it is the only kind of art form that is so directly tied to money and entertainment. And when
yeah,
people try to talk about it, there's just so many. It's like, I don't know. People just approach it in so many different ways. And I'm not saying there's a good or wrong place. I just don't think that if you approach it from this lens, that you should be like actually like I don't know. It just feels like the people sitting at the kids' table trying to like tell the adults how to cut their fucking steak. It's just like
yeah.
it's
Yeah, and there's just a lot of things about it that are frustrating. I don't know. It's like just come on, because
yeah
the other thing is
I
like you can do those things effectively. Like you can make a fun, silly, like just for entertainment movie that is like
yeah
effective.
I
Like
said
you know
this
what I
earlier.
mean? It's like
We watched Ghost Rider last night, which is a movie that people Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, which is a movie that has a 1.9 on Letterboxd, and people hate. Like it's funny because it's a Marvel movie before. It's like I think it came in 2011, so it's just right around the time that Marvel was starting, like that kind of Iron Man era. But it came out in 2011, and people hate it, and people think it's really bad. And I've seen it on like worst movies of all time list. And I think that movie's really good because I had lots of fun with it, and I think it's shot in interesting ways, and I think it's fun, and I think there's a real person making a movie there. And I just think it's interesting because a lot of people on my comments when I talk about how I don't like Bullet Train or I don't like certain movies, they're like, this guy can't have fun, which is
yeah,
interesting because a lot of my favorite movies are like, this is really fun and it's like a real person made it.
yeah.
That's like
Also, how
it's
do
like
you like how
it's
do these people think we got into movies? You know what I
what's
mean?
yeah,
Like you think we
it's like
like
we have like our like professor glasses on and
yeah, like
we're
as a
like watching
10-year-old
like this
child,
every
like
it's like it's the other thing I was talking about like 0 to 100. It's like I watch silent movies and I like silent movies. And like I watch old movies and I like old movies. But it's like they think that we only watch silent movies or old movies. It's like we only watch one kind of movie, and it's the only movie we watch because we're like, I don't know, we can't have fun. We don't like fun. It's I don't know. It's so
yeah,
silly. It feels like
uh,
a lot of people. It's like they can only be on one side. They can only be interested in one thing. They can't be diverse and they can't branch out. And I think kind of only being in one kind of pool or whatever is harmful. And I think you're not going
lens.
to experience other things. And obviously, yeah, what you only look through one lens is bad because how are you going to know this is the best lens or how this is the best stuff? how are you gonna know like this is how you're not gonna I don't know, exploration is so important, and I think you should try to branch out and try different things because like that's how
Yeah,
you learn new things and that's how you learn new things about yourself and stuff like that.
yeah.
But I think a lot of
That's
people
why.
are really stuck in like watching the same kind of stuff over and over again.
Yeah, it's why it's also the same thing with like it reminds me of like my list of favorite movies and like kind of like the jumps that the list takes,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean? But because it's like I enjoy these things for different reasons, you know what I mean? I think we were
yeah.
talking the other
Well,
day,
yeah,
I about how like how the two movies next to each other on my list of favorite movies are La N and The Fault in Our Stars. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, these movies can't be further from each other, you know what I mean? But it's like obviously I like these movies for two completely different reasons. And it's like I can just enjoy both. Like I'm weighing these movies based on how much I like them, not like that I only view movies this
yeah.
one way.
Well, that's why I don't even have my top. I have like a top 50, I think, but it's not
Yeah.
ranked because it's like I had it ranked before, but for me it was like I appreciate these movies and like these movies for so completely different reasons that it's kind of impossible to rank. Where it's almost like this point of like it was like if you had something that was 5 through 10 and you had 11 through 15 or whatever, you could almost swap these and it would be fine, but it was the fact that
Yeah.
these were in the right order. It was like if
Yeah.
this was next to this guy, like if this was in front of this guy, it was fine. But I honestly could have slipped this guy over. It's like I don't know. Everything is just I love these for different reasons.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know. There's so many ways to appreciate and like a movie, and I think a lot of people are only like as long as it makes me entertained, then it is
Yeah.
good. And I think we
And like
should be
that's
thinking
fine.
about things. Yeah, it's totally
But
fine. It's
yeah,
totally fine.
then don't at
But
the same
don't tell
time
me.
don't bash critics when
But
it's
it's
like
like,
this
yeah,
is
it's
what
funny
they
because
this is what
it's
they
funny
do.
that
Like
people want to just the people that only want to be entertained want to be critics, which I think is backwards. I
yeah,
think if just like I don't know if you think it's like if you are only here to watch a movie and have fun and be entertained, go for
yeah.
it. I just don't think that you should try and be like I don't know, not even try to be critic. Just not even like just don't like leave comments try to be critic. Like it's like not even like make an account or just like why are you leaving a critical comment if you're just having fun? Like if you're having fun, just go have
Yeah.
fun. Like just leave me alone.
Yeah, I don't know. It's we could talk about that for a while as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Do you have any
I
more?
have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple more. We could fire through another one. This is this one I just thought was funny. But it's the most popular review on Letterboxd right now for Ant-Man and
Okay.
the Wasp: Quantumania, and I just want to read the first line. That's like beginning to think the MCU is a money laundering front because where is the
Oh
budget
yes, yes,
going?
yes, yes.
And I think we kind of mentioned this like before, where it's like this is kind of what I was saying about like the spectacle thing, where it's like this movie has like these movies have budgets that no other action movie has, and somehow they look like this.
Well,
Not
yeah,
just
it
the
becomes
action, but like literally everything that goes into it.
I don't know. I think a big issue with that is I think Marvel knows their audience and their audience is impatient. I mean I could say impatient children. It's impatient people in general. And they know they have to push out stuff and they have these big budgets, but it is not the budgets aren't being used like smart. And it is smart, but it's not let's make the best movie possible budget. It is how can we make an acceptable movie as fast as possible budget. It is we're going to use our budget to get this movie out and like looking
Yeah,
okay. It's not because you look at something like Avatar, which also is a huge budget. What they said, James Cameron was like, I'm gonna wait 13 years until the stuff like the I'm gonna like I'm gonna make technology so that this is looking as like as best as it can. And then Marvel will be like, we're gonna make a movie in 6 months and shit that shit out, and you're gonna like it. Which is a different approach there.
yeah, absolutely. I don't even. I hate I hate that I have to read this one because this is kind of what
Oh,
I was talking about before. But someone's review kind of goes into like they this is a positive review of Ant-Man and the Wasp:
okay,
Quantumania,
okay. Shut up.
and
Positive reviews for Ant-Man.
yeah, and the end of their review goes into like also this movie is very pro-revolutionary, advocating for breaking the law if it means doing the right
Breaking
thing,
the law.
You see protecting houseless rights, like all
Yeah, I
this like
love
revolution,
hashtag out Cassie, my
protecting,
favorite.
yeah, protecting like oppressed people. And it's like, I mean, again, we don't have to go into detail about this, but this is already what I kind of mentioned. It's like these movies are not progressive.
How many
These are
stars?
not. That was a 4-star review.
All right.
But
Shout
it's
out.
just like, yeah, I don't know. It's and then they end it by they're like, is Ant-Man the most progressive series in the MCU? I think so. It's like,
Oh,
bro,
come on.
okay,
Like,
they might be right. Maybe Ant-Man is the most progressive one.
yeah,
Does that
for
mean
small people and big people.
anything? The MCU, you know what I mean? Like,
But
does
yeah,
it
yeah.
mean anything? Ant-Man is the most progressive. It's like these are not. It comes down like these, like you're talking about like you're talking about movies that are distinctly like overtly pro US military movies, and then you're like, oh, but this movie shows a revolution, so it must be progressive. It's like what are we
Yeah.
talking about? You're talking about the biggest military movie, like the biggest budget military propaganda that exists, and you're like, yeah, but what about it being pro revolution? Come on, like what are we doing? It's just so like I don't know. It's whatever. Like if that's what you get out of the movie, it's fine. But I just feel like it's so misguided and so misplaced. Like it's just
Yeah.
not the take that you think it is. But it's fine. And then the last one I have was a tweet that I saw saying, I think the real takeaway from Quantumania having a way lower score than Ant-Man and the Wasp is that MCU movies may finally be starting to get rated fairly, and that we're past the phase of mid to garbage movies getting nothing lower than like 70% because they're in the MCU, which I
Well,
think is
yeah, you
like,
know.
again, no, it's like, yeah, I do think that the rating is fair, and I do think that there's definitely other Marvel movies that could have a significantly lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But it kind of goes back to that conversation we were talking about, where it's like, who is this for? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like,
Well, so with on Letter, I think Letterboxd has a 2.9 right now. And I think it's way too high for that movie. But I do think that it's like also I tweeted about this and I'm talking about this a lot online because I remember seeing a tweet under George Movie and Stuff's account. He was talking about he was watching Lady in the Water and he was like now watching Lady in the Water, and someone commented under it. He was like, I don't know how you watch these low rated movies because Lady in the Water has 2.4 because I would never watch something that low. And I kind of responded to that because I was like, I don't know. I just feels like you should totally, if like it's a movie that looks like interesting to you, I think you should totally watch it. I think ratings should not be your kind of like whatever. It shouldn't make you want to watch a movie or not want to watch a movie, because I think with especially like you see something like Ant-Man Quantumania, anyone can log on and make a letterbox count, right? So if you're 6 years old and you really like Ant-Man and the Quantumania and you get 5 stars, that affects the rating. Like if all these like little Jimmies get online and make letterboxes and give it 5 stars, it's gonna have a higher rating than it should. And then
yeah.
you have something like I don't know, I'm on my head right
I
now. I don't
mean,
have a
Spider-Man
bad
No Way
rate.
Home, I know on Letterboxd.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, just read it. That's a great thing. So everyone's like, "Oh, I can't rate it bad because I love Tobey Maguire. I'm not going to rate it so low." Whatever. There's like all these like things that go into the rating, and especially with something like Letterboxd, which I love the app, but it's a communal rating of all kinds of people. So how are you going to tell? How is the world going to tell you how to feel about a movie that you haven't even seen?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It is a weird way
But yeah, I think
to
I all the Marvel movies are kind of like just a little bit too high. I think some of them
yeah,
are like way too high, but I think all of them are gonna get spiked because Marvel fans are just gonna all Marvel fans are gonna be like all like there's gonna be people that just have 5 stars for every Marvel movie because they love
yeah,
Marvel. And that's the only movie they watch. And then there's gonna be like I think also there's other movies that are probably gonna get like negative kind of reception because like there's like a movie like Wavelength I think has a 3.4, and that's like a 45. It's a great movie by Michael Snow, but a lot of people, all the like the comments are like, I watched it in film school, and I was like, it felt like I was forced to watch it. And
yeah,
those people that shouldn't have watched the movie, like, I hate to say, because people hate when I say they shouldn't have watched the movie, but it was like
yeah,
those are people that the movie wasn't. That's not really a movie for them, so they're gonna give it a lower
yeah,
rating because there was like they watched it at a time where they were not interested in it. So like, there's all these different cases that kind of go in. It's case by case scenario with movies on Letterboxd. So I think you should not like that should not be a thing that kind of goes in your head when you're picking a movie or looking at stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that's all the takes I have. We can wrap up on Ant-Man and the
Yeah,
Wasp.
shout out
Yeah,
Ant-Man.
yeah. I mean, and again, if you like the
You think, hey,
movie,
you think we're gonna Ant-Man 4 or is he done? Because I thought they were gonna kill his ass.
yeah, I know
I
that's
thought
actually
it
true.
was like Paul Rudd is getting up there. Ant-Man, like how many more
Yeah,
Ant-Mans you have? You also like you
like
bring in this young Ant girl.
yeah,
You bring Ant Girl in, you know, and
yeah,
Ant-Man is getting old, and also it's like you bring in Jonathan Majors, you want to show how powerful he is, kill Ant-Man. But it was like,
yeah,
no, we want Ant-Man here forever, you know. But you know, I don't know.
yeah. I don't know.
That's just
We'll see what direction they
what
go.
we'll
I
talk
mean,
when
they
Ant-Man
have a
when
plan,
Ant-Man
of course.
yeah, we'll talk about it on Ant-Man 4 podcast episode. Ant-Man 4 and the Quantum Kids. We'll see.
Yeah, that's like
See
episode
them.
100 or something.
Episode
That's way down the line.
7,000.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Episode 7,000. Well, Doug will still not be here. Doug will still not return.
Doug just has to catch another stray before the episode ends. But yeah, you can let us know what you thought of the movie. If you like the movie, that's fine too. But next week we're gonna be talking about Cocaine Bear, and we're also gonna be talking about potentially some other movies with killer animals as the antagonist. So we'll see you next week.